Hello and welcome to the Scale Modelling Cafe, and welcome to part one of this project. Two aims of this project really. One is to show you the new or relatively new ammo of Mig MiG-17 model. It is moulded by Kinetic, and this is the basic version, so no resin, no photo etch. Well, I say no photo etch, none of the Red Fox stuff. The other aim is to test these new Atom acrylic paints by Ammo. So you may note that some of the packaging is different to the final version. This is because these are prototypes, but the actual paint itself is the same. It's just the packaging that's a bit different. So I've diluted it roughly 50-50 here. This is the light blue for the interior, obviously, and then by keeping the parts on the sprue and using my Iwata, and this is a 0.2 needle, I'm just going to apply the paint. So as you can see, light even coats building up the opacity. The paint, as you can see, sprays beautifully. It's extremely smooth, it's opaque, it dries quite quickly, especially for an acrylic paint, and you can see what a really nice effect that gives. Most of the parts were painted on the sprue actually, and you can see there just the cockpit halves. The one on the left is dry now, the one on the right has just finished. So what's that, a few minutes, and it's dry to the eye. But obviously, being acrylic, it is a little bit softer than my traditional lacquers that I use. So you do have to wait longer for it to go off. Same with any acrylic. Okay, bit of a faux pas moment here is I lost the part for the top of the ejection seat, which was a right pain, so I just had to scratch build that. The pull handles from a bit of wire, yeah, that disappeared. The carpet monster ate that. But anyway, on with the painting, and again just holding it in the tweezers there, and you can see how nicely the paint goes down. Fading effects now, so adding a bit of white, you can see how pale the colour is there in the colour cup. I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to highlight the centre of panels. This is going to create depth and a bit of wear and tear, although I am going to do this model with the canopy closed because this is the basic kit, so I don't have much photo etch really, just the seat harnesses, and you'll see the wing fences. Everything else is plastic. I didn't have the Red Fox Studios cockpit set, which is just utterly astonishing. And with all that, I thought I'll do the model with the canopy closed on this one. Now, I didn't have any of the Atom metallics at time of filming. I do now, but I went down the route of using Ammo's A stand. So I wanted to use, seeing this is an Ammo kit and I'm using the Ammo acrylic paint, as many Ammo products as I can. And this is the A stand, which is obviously a lacquer. Switching tones now, and I'm just going to do the parts of the engine. Now, you can see there is this detail on the outside of the jet pipe. That's because on the MiG-17, when the air brakes were open, it did expose the exterior of the engine. So just putting a light even coat down. You can see there I've protected the pre-painted cockpit parts. There's the turbine going down. We'll just give that a bit of a blast. I say blast, the air pressure is actually really quite low. This molded in detail. I've done a in-depth sprue tour of this kit. I'll put a card at the end. Yeah, this detail is absolutely beautiful. As you can see, no primer, just straight onto the plastic, which is fine as long as you do sort of thin coats. It's not going to affect the plastic at all. and easy to forget this detail in the wing root. So I've gone in with a brush and I've just picked out some of the detail. The Atom paints brush really quite nicely, especially thin with a tiny bit of water just to help it flow on the brush. And once sealed in with a varnish coat, I'm just going to go in with an oil wash. So I think, if my memory serves me correct, then this is the Oil Brusher Starship Filth, which is a really great colour. It's very ubiquitous. You can use it for most tones. And then once that was dry, just going in with a brush with a bit of enamel thinner and just cleaning things up. Now, I did try the wash on the bare paint without a protective coat, and it worked absolutely fine. So no problems there if you don't want to apply a gloss varnish. I just find that a gloss varnish just helps the wash to flow a little bit better. For the metallic areas, I just went in with a cotton bud and just gave it a polish. No need to go in with the brush here, and the detail's really crisp, so there's minimal danger of the cotton bud removing the wash from where you don't want it. And yeah, a really nice effect there, and it will sort of polish and blend, and you get that sort of grimy effect as well as highlighting the shadows. And there is the finished cockpit sidewalls. Now this area underneath was actually supposed to be metallic colour. And I found just the easiest way was to use the cockpit tub itself as a mask. So just going in there with the A-stand, and we'll just hold it together, a few light passes, remove the cockpit tub, and you can see that that's really quite effective. Okay, that's the cockpit finished now, so we can start assembling. It all starts with the cockpit tub and the rudder pedals. They just pop in. Now for the control column, and I really like this moulding, this one-piece moulding, really nicely detailed, really nice and secure. Just making sure it's not skew-if, and then just going in with the glue just on the outside, and yeah, the paint is it's pretty robust once it's fully cured. Yeah, as long as you're careful, you can apply the glue to painted areas just a little bit like that, and it's fine. It won't affect the painted surface. But just on this bit, I just thought it was prudent just to scrape some of the paint away, just to help adhesion. And then the rear of that part is not painted, as you can see, and that just slots in. It's quite a tight fit. Everything was quite a tight fit. The tolerances on these modern day CAD design kits are such that it really is prudent to try and avoid paint on the gluing surfaces if you can. The tolerances are that tight. But in this kit, it all fits really quite well. then the seat pops in, sort of behind the ejection seat rail. You see it is quite a tight fit, so you do need a bit of pressure to get it in, but once it's in, it holds itself quite nicely, and then we can just go in again with the glue and just let the capillary action just wick the glue along the join, and that's going to be nice and secure. Very positive location for the sidewall panels. You can see how it just slots in there. And then what I'll do is just apply some pressure, just for a few seconds, just to let the glue sort of do its business and bite. And then we can get on with the rest of it. But you can see how busy that looks, straight from the box. This is the kind of nose splitter type thing, and it is possible to glue this on upside down. So it is clear in the instructions, but yeah, just make sure you got it the right way up, otherwise you will have trouble trying to fit the nose gear bay. And here is the nose gear bay just popping in. Now this is the recess that you can use for nose weight. It does need a lot of nose weight, and as it turned out, I didn't use enough. You will see in a bit how much I used. A bit of liquid gravity and some actual lead, and it wasn't enough. Jet pipe now, and yeah, in two halves as you've seen before, but don't worry about the seam, because you can't really see it on the inside, and you're not going to see it on the outside anyway. It's all quite dark up there, so even though there is a seam, technically it doesn't matter, you're not going to see it. Just giving you a bit of a squeeze, you can see the glue oozing out there, so I know that's going to be absolutely tickety-boo. And then here's the turbine, and you'll notice it is keyed, so I've just done a bit of a black wash there just to pop the detail out. As I said, it is keyed, so that just pops in and we can glue that in place. And then in a sec I'll just show you, looking up the jet pipe, exactly how much you're going to see. Now bear in mind, it's not even in the aeroplane yet, so there you go. Manipulating the light so you can see the afterburner ring way back there, but you're not really going to see much up there. Right, now to put the thing together. So starting off with the jet pipe, very positive location. It just kind of sits in this sort of pin and slot thing, all very secure. Now the instructions will say to, when you're building the jet pipe, to put the sort of the nozzle on the end as you're putting it together, but as you can see here, I've left that off just for ease of painting, and it's quite easy to pop that on at the end. One piece rudder going on. You don't necessarily need to glue this. I did, just to make it a bit more secure, but yeah, you don't have to glue that if you don't want to. And then the cockpit, it seats really nicely. It's very positive location, you can't really get things wrong. What I did forget to do is I didn't paint the cockpit colour in the fuselage halves at the top, but it was fairly easy to just go in with a brush, and I just brush painted the atom paint in there, and it brushed really nicely, really smooth, no real brush marks to see. I mean, it's difficult to see anyway, if I'm honest, especially that I'm going to do this with the canopy closed, but yeah, it brushed really nicely in that sort of relatively large area. You can just see how positive the location is there, just for the cockpit part. and putting the fuselage halves together. So this is my usual technique of using the ammo black super glue. Many advantages of using this rather than traditional cement. One is time saving. It's really quick, especially using this accelerator. Just squeeze it together, dab the accelerator on, make sure it's aligned properly, and then within a few seconds it goes hard and you can sand it straight away. The other advantage of this stuff is, as well as it sanding really nicely just like plastic, is because it's not a solvent, it's not going to melt the plastic and it's not going to shrink, so you're never ever going to get any sink marks. But this is just straight away after I finish gluing it together, we can go in with the sanding sticks and sand and polish. You just got to be careful with the round fuselage section, you don't sand in a flat spot, so just be careful. And then this stuff is ammo's surfacer. It comes in thin, which is really thin, medium, which is this one, and thick. And all I'm doing here is just making sure that the seam is good. So it's almost acting as like a primer coat really, but it will have some sort of filling ability. If using the accelerator that I do, as the glue cures, you can get bubbles in it, tiny little pinholes. So this just guards against that, and also obviously I'm checking the seam, making sure I've done my sanding properly and there's no evidence of the seam underneath, which there wasn't, which was great. You can see there it's drying as I'm trying to apply it there, so it does dry really quickly. So I'll just leave it for about 15 minutes, something like that, and then I can go in with this wet sanding sponge. Again, this is ammo, like most stuff is on this project, and yeah, just wet sand and just polish it away. And you can see there the remnants, as I'm restoring the panel lines with this saw, the remnants of the surfacer. It's almost kind of stained the plastic, and that's because it's etched into the plastic, so it binds really well. I find I don't tend to get that so much with Mr. Surfacer from GSI, but this stuff it kind of etches into the plastic a bit more, so it's a bit more hardy, and I do like that. Right, this bit is well worn. I'm just polishing the panel lines, just making sure I haven't got any raised bits or burrs, and then just going in there with this scriber. And this isn't scribing the plastic, this is just cleaning out the dust and crap from the sanding process. And then just to make sure there's nothing in there, and just to smooth everything out, just a bit of liquid cement, and it just looks like all the other panel lines now. So here's that nose weight. As you can see, I could have fitted in some more. I really wish I had. I ended up having to put some lead down the side of the intakes, which, you know, you can't really see, but yeah, it's a bit annoying. And then just sealing that in with this kind of cap piece. Now you've got to be careful to get the right one. There's two options in the kit. This is the Soviet built one, and there is the Chinese built one. It was slightly different, so just make sure you get the right part. And right at the very front, it's difficult to get the exact profile, so I did use a bit of pressure there just to make sure everything lined up. The nose cap fits nice. It's a bit of a complicated shape, this, but you know, the designers have done a great job of the parts breakdown. And just using a peg just to make sure the contours are going to be correct as the glue sets. And we'll just seal that in with a bit more glue over the top. And I did go in and just sand it gently just to match up the contours. So the gun belly plates going on, again, complicated contours here. So it's pretty good. It's not perfect. It's not Tamiya, but it's pretty good. But it's worthwhile just doing a bit of manipulation of the part just as the glue starts to dry, and that'll minimize any steps. So the shell ejector suits are quite handy to get as you can see there, just getting in some tweezers, and you can just pull it up a little bit, and like I say, just to match those contours. And then I did go around again with the surfacer just around that seam, and a little bit of gentle sanding to match it all up. Onto the wings now. Simple affair, fits really nice. I did worry about those pitos, one on each wing, but actually no dramas at all. It's fairly robust. I was worried I was going to knock them off, but the base of them is actually quite big, quite thick, and they're quite strong. So yeah, I didn't have any accidents. Not to say it's impossible to bend it or snap it off, but yeah, no such worries with mine. And it even travelled all the way back in my suitcase when I flew home, and there was no damage at the other end. Separate ailerons, they just kind of click into place really, so you can pose them. Same for the elevators, and obviously you saw the rudder earlier, so all the control surfaces are separate. And even if you're going to have them neutral like I am, the fact that they are separate, I think, just adds that extra element of realism. Separate elevators again, so you can pose those if you wish. Just making sure it's all lining up. And then the fit to the fuselage is actually really nice. So I did spend some time here because it's a very prominent part of the aeroplane, this sort of almost a T-tail. And I did take my time making sure it was glued, minimizing any sort of gaps or anything like that. Looking at it, making sure it's square. You could even do a sort of template thing if you want. I don't bother, I just use a bit of Siemens eye. Seems to work for me. But I really did take my time here, as you can see, going backwards and forward, a little bit more glue here and there, lining things up, tweaking it so it was all straight. You can see a bit of vinyl there on those panels. I just sanded them off, cut them out on vinyl. I thought that would give a neater finish than trying to sort of get everything sort of square and looking sharp. Always a big moment in any aeroplane build is wings to fuselage, and as you can see here, the fit's really nice. Just note how I'm holding it. I'm just using the thumb to apply pressure there. That'll push it together, and then just running this extra thin along the seam. Capillary action will wick it into the joint, and just applying the pressure so it doesn't really move, and that'll give a nice strong join, and there was no cleanup required. What you could do if you're looking at a sort of competition level model is I'd be tempted to completely fill that join in and then rescribe it to make it match up with all the other panel lines. It's because it is a join, it's never going to look exactly like a panel line, but there you go, up to you. I didn't bother. Now I scanned the undercarriage doors, and I made templates from tape. This is the Mig MiG tape, and I just went in bit of blue tack just to raise it up, and it worked brilliantly. Actually, I was really pleased. The actual gear doors themselves there are held in place with blue tack, and I just used a little bit of the tape there, that mask that I made just for the smaller door. But that worked an absolute treat. And then various other masking mediums, so a bit of sponge for the nose gear bay and the intakes, and I actually used blue tack, just blue tack, to protect the engine parts where the air brakes are. Okay, final stretch now. Just sanding the brass parts just to provide a key. The fit is really good here of these wing fences. I'm so glad they did it in photo etch and not plastic, because it is, you know, virtually scale thickness. Now I tried gluing these with super glue, but it made a little bit of a mess actually. So as you can see, I'm using plastic cement, and you know, I'm sure you're all asking, why are you doing that, Jamie? Well, the reason is it melts the plastic, and then you can apply a bit of pressure, as you can see what I'm doing here. I'll go and use a little bit more glue in a sec, and the plastic, as it cures, will grip onto that very thin brass, and it's actually very secure, so feel free to use that. And there we go, that is end of part 1, construction complete. In the next episode I'm going to be using the new atom paints to paint the model. So you can see the packaging is slightly different from the production examples. These are prototypes, but as you'll see in the next episode, they spray beautifully. It's possible to do nice tight demarcations, as you can see, and I'll show you how I use various weathering techniques as well. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in part 2. So cheers, bye bye.